Alright. In total, there are 11 Fast and Furious movies. That's a total runtime of 1,488 minutes. Now, do you really believe that I'm gonna rewatch all these movies and rank them for your entertainment?
You're goddamn right.
Just know these are my opinions, so if you disagree, please just rewatch these movies yourself and don't try and find my address, please. Also, always spoiler warning ahead. Anyway, strap yourself in, learn on us, and fam. The first Fast and Furious movie is the one that started it all. I would just tell you that this movie is amazing. Better than a lot of the Fast and Furious movies are dead now.
Dude! What the fuck?
Essentially, what happens is there are a group of drivers that perform heists on trucks. LAPD officer Brian O'Connor, played by the late Paul Walker, is going undercover in an investigation to try and work out who are behind these heists. He meets Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, and manages to gain his respect after racing him. After doing some research, Brian comes to the conclusion that Jimmy Tran, leader of a rival gang to Dom, is behind these hijacks. However, after arresting them, they find out they were wrong. Brian then gets an invite to Race Wars street racing in the desert by Dom. It is there where Brian learns that Dom and his crew are behind hijacks. Brian is then forced to confess his identity to Mia and convinces her to help him save Dom. The hijacking goes wrong after the truck driver pulls out a shotgun. Brian saves the day and is then forced to reveal his identity to call for help. Dom, enraged by this, races home with Brian following. Jesse, one of Dom's friends who lost his race and fled, returns apologizing but then gets shot down by Tran and his friends on bikes. Brian and Dom chase him down and kill them. Brian is then given a choice of arresting Dom or letting him go. He chooses to make good on his promise and give him his 10-second car. Overall, this is the movie that got us all hooked into the series. I'm gonna give this movie a solid A tier.
Too fast, too furious.
Too Fast, Too Furious is an interesting movie. Unpopular opinion, but I really enjoy this movie. I feel like this movie doesn't get the flowers it deserves, but I found this movie really funny.
So forget about it, cuz.
Also, the idea was for Paul Walker to be the main protagonist, and this movie did not feature Vin Diesel, as he was busy filming the Chronicles of Riddick. However, you don't miss him with the inclusion of Tyrese Gibson and his chemistry with Paul Walker.
This is all I got.
Following from the events of the first movie, Brian is now on the run from LAPD and moves to Miami. There, he participates in street racing in the beautiful, glorious Nissan Skyline GTR. However, after the street race, he gets caught by Miami PD and is forced to be involved in the FBI operation to clean his criminal record. Brian takes Roman Pierce with him to be his partner on this mission to apprehend an Argentinian drug lord, Carter Verona. Eva Menendez, who plays Monica, is also undercover and is his love interest who lives in his mansion. Roman and Brian are hired by Verona as his drivers who plan to smuggle his drug money on his private jet. One night they are chilling in a nightclub when Verona tortures a police officer in a gruesome way to get the drivers time to escape. On the day, they smuggle the money, and in one of the best scenes, they hide from the police in a massive car scramble. After this, we learn some Spanish from Roman, but Brian doesn't follow up because he learns that he now needs to go to Verona's private yacht. It turns out that Verona knew about their plan all along, and even knew that Monica was a mole. Brian is taken away to be killed, but Roman drives in to make the save. Then, in order to save Monica, they drive a car into the ram and fly onto the yacht. Verona is captured.
Drop the soap, big homie.
And both Roman and Brian have their records clean. Oh, and they took some monies.
Pockets ain't empty, cuz.
Overall, this movie is a fun watch. Roman and Brian definitely buzz well off each other. The scene with a nose where it looks like the guy's going to hyperspace is hilarious, but it's what adds to the movie's charm. The driving scenes are all under different circumstances, whether it's a drag race, tag drag race, running for the police, or jumping onto a literal yacht. Overall, the enjoyment I got from this movie means it's getting a B tier. This right here is a certified hood classic. If you don't like this movie, I don't even know why you're watching this video in the first place. This movie features neither of Paul Walker or Vin Diesel and is still one of the best Fast and Furious movies we have. The plot goes that Sean Boswell is an American student who gets in trouble for drag racing and destroying property. He then has a choice of jail or move to Japan with his military dad. He then has to adjust to new culture, meets Trinky, another American, trying to sell him shoes and phones, like how other people in high school tried to sell Lucasades and Whispers. Anyways, Sean wants Trinky to show him the street racing culture. There we meet the main antagonist, Takashi, who also goes by the nickname DK. And no, it doesn't stand for Donkey Kong, it actually stands for Drift King, because that's what races are all about. We also meet Han, who offers his car to Sean so he can race Takashi, and he actually ends up winning. Gets smoked and wrecks Han's car. Han then makes Sean drive and work for him in order to repay him. He then teaches him how to drift because he's the only one unafraid of Takashi and therefore ends up winning races. He then goes out with Neela, who Takashi likes. Takashi beats up Sean for talking to Neela, and after seeing the bruising, Neela leaves Takashi and moves in Han's garage with Sean. Takashi's uncle, a Yakuza, visits him and tells him that Han has been stealing their merchandise from under their noses. Takashi confronts Han about this and pulls out a gun. Han, Sean, and Neela manages to escape and get into a car chase throughout the streets of Tokyo. An oncoming car crashes into Han and Han's car explodes, and he definitely dies there. Sean and Neela then retreats to Sean's dad's house, but Takashi catches them and tells Neela to get into his car. She obliges so Sean doesn't get hurt. Then Sean is being told by his father to leave his country, but Sean wants to fix his mistakes. He finds some money left to him by Han, pays it to Kamala, Takashi's uncle. Sean then proposes a race between him and Takashi, where the loser leaves Tokyo. Kamala agrees and has it take place on DK's mountain, because DK is the only one who's ever managed to make it down. Sean is then forced to restore his dad's old Ford Mustang 1967 with the rest of Han's crew because all of Han's cars taken by the police. Then comes the day of the race, where both cars start at the top. All the twists and turns call for some great drifting between the two, with Takashi even ramming Sean on a couple of occasions. Also, this entire time, people are just watching this entire thing go down on their Nokia phones from their POV. So how does that even work? Anyways, Takashi again tries to ram Sean, but ends up being sent off the cliff, with Sean winning the race. Takashi now leaves Tokyo and Neela rejoins with Sean, is now the new Drift King. But then months later, Twinkie tells Sean there's an American driver who knew Han and wants to race him, and surprise surprise, it's Dominic Toretto. We don't see who wins the race, but I'm pretty sure Dom won. Surprisingly, this movie did not perform well when it first came out. However, we all look back on it today as a timeless classic. The songs, the actor, the race scenes were all brilliant. Because of this, it is called an S-tier movie. Now, we are moving on to Fast and the Furious. Yeah, the name can be kind of confusing, but this is essentially a soft reboot now that Paul Walker and Vin Diesel had returned to the franchise. The fourth installation is not my favourite to say the least. This movie is definitely forgettable and doesn't hold up to its predecessor, Tokyo Drift.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
The movie begins with another truck heist in the Dominican Republic that involves Dom, Letty, Han and two new characters, Teiko and Rico. It goes well up until the driver jumps away, leaving Dom to save Letty from a bouncing truck that ends up exploding. Dom then leaves Letty for her own safety when weeks later in Panama City he gets a call from Mia. She tells him that Letty was murdered, so Dom returns to LA to find Letty's murderer. Meanwhile, we meet Brian, who now works for the FBI and is trying to track down drug dealer Arturo Braga. Both Dom and Brian end up in a street race to determine Braga's new driver. Of course, we are then reunited with a Nissan Skyline. We also meet Giselle, who works for Braga. Dom ends up winning, so Brian is forced to arrest another driver to take his place. The next day, they meet Braga's henchman Phoenix, who murdered Letty. The duo escape with the heroin after Dom detonates his car. Later on, Brian, Dom and Mia are having dinner when Dom finds out that Brian was the last person to contact Letty. Dom then beats him up, but explains that Letty was undercover, tracking down Braga in exchange for clearing Dom's name. Brian then makes a deal with his superiors to lure Braga using heroin in exchange for Dom's pardon. However, they are fooled by a decoy and Braga actually flees to Mexico, almost killing Giselle in the process. Brian and Dom travel to Mexico to catch Braga and apprehend him in a church. This leads to some intense car chases through underground tunnels. Brian crashes his car, but before Phoenix can kill him, Dom drives into him to kill him first. Police arrive and arrest Dom and he is sentenced to 25 years in prison. But on the prison bus, we see Brian, Mia, Leo and Santos arrive in cars to intersect. In all fairness, I don't think this is the worst movie in the franchise. The problem is the antagonist was just too boring and the overall plot fell flat. Like, the whole premise of this movie is Dom getting revenge for Letty's murder. But this entire movie, my man is just constantly eyeing up Gal Gadot. And besides, 2 movies later, we learned that Letty is still alive anyway, so what was even the point? Yeah, this forgettable movie for me is just getting the D tier. This is an amazing movie. It felt like the Avengers with all the previous characters returning together for one last heist. Basically, this movie directly continues from the 4th movie, with Brian and Mia and Rick and Dom out of a prison bus. Because of this, they're fugitives forced to hide out. Brian and Mia end up in Rio, where they meet up with Vince. Oh yeah, that guy. He now has a wife and kid, which discloses the fact that Mia is also pregnant. So it's probably not the best idea to steal high-end cars from a train, but you know. Anyway, on the train, Brian and Mia finally meet up with Dom and Vince's group. Vince drives off in the first car, but then Dom notices one guy called Zizi who really wants the second car. Dom makes Mia drive off in the car, leaving him and Brian to fight off the rest of the gang. The DEA are on the train and get involved, leading to all 3 being shot by Zizi. Dom drives off in the final car, saving Brian from an explosion. However, they then drive off a cliff into a river. They are captured by Zizi's boss, Hernan Reyes, who is a crime lord. He wants to know where the car is, and when the duo escapes, they find out that the car has a chip. Vince's idea was to sell the chip to Reyes without telling anyone, putting the family in danger. Dom kicks him out. Brian finds the location of $10 million worth of cash on the chip. The death of the DEA agents are blamed on Dom, so DSS agent Luke Cobbs and his team arrive to arrest Dom and Brian. He also hires Elena because she's the only cop who's not corrupt. Dom's safe house is simultaneously raided by Hobbs and Reyes' men. The trio escape, with Dom suggesting they split up, prompting Mia to tell them about the pregnancy. They stick together to plan one final heist to set them for life. They recruit Hard, Roman, Edge, Giselle, Rico and Diego. After learning this, Reyes stores all his money in the police station in a massive vault. The team prepared for this heist by stealing police cars, which caused they had to drag race in them, as well as allowing Vince to join back. However, on the day of the heist, Hobbs finds them. Dom and Hobbs battle it out with their egos and contracts on the line. In the end, Dom surrenders, so Hobbs arrests Dom, Brian, Mia and Vince. Whilst transporting them, the convoy is attacked by Reyes' men. Hobbs' team die in the process and is then saved by Dom. Vince is also killed in the process, so the stakes are raised for both Dom and Hobbs. This is where Dom and Brian drag the vault out in cars and get into a massive car chase with the police. This was by far the best car scene in the franchise. I think what makes it great is just how practical the scene is without much use of CGI. Yes, this was real. 2 cars dragging a 9,000 pound vault through the streets of Rio, smashing into actual buildings. I would highly recommend looking at the behind the scenes, because the stunts come with such a fine margin of error. And what makes this scene feel somewhat possible compared to 2 movies later where we see a car defying gravity jumping between 2 towers in Abu Dhabi. This was the perfect culmination of action and great driving sequences. Anyways, during the chase, Reyes' men are also involved. Believing they can't outrun them, Dom tells Brian to take care of Mia and his new kid. He forces him to leave and turns to face the entire Rio Police Department on his wolves. He proceeds to drive into the oncoming vehicles using the vault as a weapon. Holy! I know people hate some unrealistic scenes in this franchise, but this was amazing. Destroying all the cars in the process and leaving Reyes injured. However, ZZ manages to escape unscathed, but before he can shoot Dom, Brian returns to kill him just in time. Hobbs arrives with Elena and he gets his revenge, finishing Reyes. He allows Dom and Brian to leave with a 24-hour head start, but without the vault. But it turns out they were already 2 steps ahead. Han and Roman used the police cars to blend in and help buy the duo some time. During this break, they swapped out the vaults for a fake. The gang shares out the 100 million, with some even going to Vince's family, and they all go their separate ways, with all of them living out their dream life. Also, in the end, we see that Dom gets together with Elena. Oh yeah, the last movie where you're mourning Letty and getting revenge for her death? Yeah, that movie didn't perform well, so let's just forget it. Wait, a mid-credit scene? What could this be? Oh.
If I told you you were beautiful, would you date me on the regular?
Anyway, this movie is what kept the franchise alive. We look back at the previous movies as some of the best in the franchise. However, Fast 5 made significantly more money than the movies that came before it. It was also a big success with critics and audiences alike. This is the reason why they continued down this action-packed route, with each movie getting crazier than the last in order to replicate the same success. I think it's a close call between this and Tokyo Drift, but I think this movie appeals more to the general fan base. You can see why they chose to revisit this movie's plot for the finale. You already know where it's going, this is the easiest ST movie. So, after covering the first 5 Fast and Furious movies, these are the current rankings. I was going to cover all 10 movies, but I was like, damn, that's a lot of movies. And I just wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. So please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll have part 2 out as soon as I can. In the meanwhile, drop other movies and franchises you want me to cover in the comments, and like and subscribe and all that. Okay, love you.